guys, my name is Anastasia and I'm a makeup artist and educator in New York City. And today I'm so excited to show you how to do a halo eye. So a halo eye really is just defining the inner and outer corner of your eye so that the center of your eyelid has that halo glowing effect. This typically makes your eye look larger, it looks rounder, and it's extremely flattering on everybody. So the first thing to start off with is your eye primer. I'm going to be using the ABH, the Anastasia Beverly Hills eye primer. This one is good for my skin tone because I'm a little bit on the light to medium side. But if you have a deeper skin tone, mix your concealer into it until you get a tint that is lighter than your skin tone to be able to give that pop. So I always love using a palette. I'm using a silver palette to be able to spread and evenly distribute my product. This is a MAC 249 synthetic brush. And you just want to have a flat paddle brush to be able to give you the precision underneath your eyebrows and fully coat your eyelid. So starting underneath the arch, this is the area where I slow down a little bit. And now I can pull the base all the way through. Anytime you do your eyeshadow, you should always slow down when you come to an edge, so that way you get that really precise line where you need it. Now I'm just going to pat. And then before I move on, I always soften and blend the edges before the base, or if you're using a concealer, before the concealer sets. I don't like to be stuck with rough edges that I can't blend. Okay, so now that we have both eyes evenly primed and smooth, the next step is to take your blending brush with a little bit of translucent powder. This is from MAC. This is the Patrick Star powder. You don't need a lot, just enough to absorb any excess moisture, because if your base is still wet and creamy by the time you put on your eyeshadow, it will actually sheer out your shadow and you won't get that intensity that you're looking for. Now let's get started on forming the crease of the eye. So the crease of the eye is where you want the most definition and the most saturation to be able to really transform and shape your eyelid. So I'm actually going to be using the Natasha Denona, love her, Sunset palette. And I'm starting off with a warm color that has a little bit of an orangey tint, but I'm sticking in the brown family. So I'm gonna start off with this shade right here. The shade is called Cyanide. So I'm starting here. And I'm taking a smaller brush. This is the MAC 239. You basically just want a fuller paddle brush. And this is a key term that I learned from one of my dear friends, Lee. But I loved this term that he used, and it's called building to blend. So where we normally take an eyeshadow brush that's fuller and softer, we start to blend to build, but this time we're actually going smaller to be able to intensify and have full saturation before we go into the crease, and then we will soften afterwards. So I'm taking my 239 brush, really focusing on loading the brush on the tip rather than the side, because I need more of this shape. And I'm starting in the crease of my eye. So I'm really feeling where my bone sinks in here. My eyelid is smaller, so this is where my actual eyelid forms. However, my bone structure, the crease is back here. So you wanna make sure that you go right in to the crease. And you see how I'm forming that shape? And bring this all the way in. So you should be bringing this is called the transition color, but you should be bringing your transition color all the way to the side of the nose, in a way like where the bone actually starts, because what you're doing is you're keeping this whole section open, and then of course you have your whole eyelid. So now that I have a really even shape, the center of my eyelid should be the highest point of the arc that is going over here. So now that I have that, I'm going to switch brushes. We're going in with This is the MAC 221. Now this is the old MAC brush. This is a natural hair. I believe everything has changed to synthetic, so I'm not sure if the quality is exactly the same. However, there are some other brushes and brush brands, such as the Hakuhodo brushes, which are my personal favorite. Oh my God, can't even, that's a whole nother video. But take your smaller blending brush, dip back into your transition shade that you're using, and now you're going to soften and blend. So as you get closer to your arch of your brow, your pressure gets softer, because that's what's helping create this beautiful gradient. So I'm just doing circular motions as I go upward. So you want to bring this color up high, because what happens is as you build onto the eyelid, colors have to blend upward, and then you end up losing the definition from the crease. So that's why this color has to go up really high. I like to just maintain a really skinny little brow highlight, because at the end it'll all balance together. So I've already started on this eye. I formed the crease with my MAC 239 brush, and now I'm just softening and blending things out. And then while I'm blending my transition color, I actually like to blend it straight into the bottom of my eyebrow, because all of your edges have to disappear for the best seamless blend. So now we are going in with the exciting, colorful shades. So keep your neutral palette on hand, because you will go back to it. And now we are going to go in with some color. So this is the Anastasia Norvina Volume 2, which is one of my favorites. Actually, all of them are just so amazing. So I am going to start off with your deepest color. So if you break up your eye into 3 or 4 parts, I like to say this is the inner and outer, shade number 1. Then you move inward a little bit, here and here, shade number 2, and then usually the last one is shade number 3. So sometimes, depending on your eye shape, you might need more shades in there. However, I think I'm going to stick with just a few shades. So you want to make sure that your color is matte and it's the darkest of your color scheme. So taking my 239 brush from MAC, and I'm dipping it into D5, which is a matte navy blue. And this time, rather than dipping the brush on the tip, I'm actually working on the side, picking up a lot of pigment. So now we are going to, again, keep this eyelid open. This is part of a highlight, so we don't want to lose the highlight. Now we're just patting and building. So I'm patting my deepest matte shade on the inner corner, and then I'm also going to do the same on the outer corner. And then you do want it to curve with your eye, so just give it a little bit of a shape. So we've already got it going. Number 1, and then number 1 on this side as well. So you don't want your brush to be too firm. That's why I love this MAC 239. And again, this is a really old brush. It's about 10 years old. So probably even longer actually. So this was a natural haired brush. I don't know how it performs now, but you know, you do want something that's somewhat soft and full. So I've got my inner and outer, and the other thing to remember is that your highlight should go through the center of your eye. So I'm gonna keep moving this over until I get it lined up a little bit more. So same thing. So you just wanna build this up until you cannot see through it at all. You don't want any light to travel through to be able to get the most intense saturation and the most Photoshop looking makeup. So keep building. So don't even worry about how it looks like now, just keep it moving. This is more of a paint by numbers type of eye, so once you get it, it's all about finessing at the end. Okay, so now that we have our placement down, I'm going to switch to a small brush. So this is the Morphe M507. So this is a maximalist, not a minimalist, maximalist type of eyeshadow look. So this is not a 5 brush challenge. This is use the tools that's going to give you the best finish for your makeup. So if you are an artist, don't try to limit yourself to using minimal amount of brushes. Like really use what you need to get precision and that sharpness and that clean quality. So I am using, like I said, the Morphe brush. And I love this brush because it's got a fine little tapered tip to it. It's extremely small compared to my other brush that I was using earlier. So you could see the difference in shape. So whenever you want things that are super airbrush looking, you go with your fluffier brush. When you need more control and a softer, more purposeful blend, you want to go in with something that is smaller. So I'm actually just taking, this is a dry brush, I'm just softening the edges of that blue. So we built to blend, so now we're at the blending point. So I'm just softening that right into the crease, getting rid of any sort of harsh lines. So I'm just doing really small circular motions, and you can see I'm not completely overlapping the previous color. So you can already see this really nice hazy glow that's happening. Okay, so now that we are at a good point so far, I'm gonna stop blending here because there's still more color to add if you want that tri-color type of eye. So now I'm gonna move back in with the same 239 brush. What you are trying to do with this eye is create a cylinder effect. So you're creating light bouncing off the center of the eye. So in order to do that, you have to shade from dark to light. So now I'm going in with a medium matte shade, and I'm going lighter than the blue. So I'm just following what's called an analogous color scheme. I talk about this all the time in my classes, but pretty much it's a gradient. An analogous color relationship creates a gradient effect. It's basically three colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. And the reason why that works is because you are continuously using bits of a previous color to help you blend. So if I started with this navy blue, I'm now going in with a green, because if we think about the rainbow, there's green, blue, purple. That's an analogous color scheme. So I'm taking the green, loading it on my brush again on the side, and this time I'm overlapping 50% of the previous color. So I'm taking my brush and just stamping, moving inward. So I'm doing light taps. Again, we're building to blend, so it's gonna look like two lines. So actually, I didn't even think about this. So if you guys are really interested in learning like more in-depth color combinations and why color works for different looks, or to help you just develop a better eye for choosing color for your own clients, let me know if you'd love to see a full-on color theory video. I would love to share. I'm all about sharing. So I'm just tapping, just getting that on there. So now that we have what looks kind of crazy, we're going back in with our Morphe M507 brush, and we are softening those edges. So softening the blue going into the green. So I'm just kind of doing like a little brush shimmy, shimmying my brush right over where the two start to overlap to create a beautiful soft finish. So this is the type of eye where you might have to go back and add more dimension or add more color. You might lose color as you go. It's just such a fully saturated eye that you have to be aware of those things in order to make it look perfect at the end. So now that we have the color going on, I'm actually going to do more of a cut crease type of technique to be able to give you that really sharp emphasis on the center of the eyelid. So I'm actually going back in with my ABH primer, putting a little bit more on my palette. Whoa, my floors are really old, so I just rolled back because they're not level. So now that I have that, I'm going in with my favorite brush for cutting a crease. Let me show you. So this is my favorite brush to create more of that cut crease. Very, very sharp, precise line is the Anastasia A2. So this is a really nice brush. It's very sharp, and the way that the hairs are cut are extremely precise. So what you want to do is take your primer. I'm just going to load up the side of my brush. You want enough so that it's able to glide perfectly, and make sure that your brush is lined up with the center of your eyelid. So you might have to move your green or your blue over a little bit more. It's totally fine. So lining that up, finding the center of my eye. There we go. So I was a little off with the color, but like I said, that's okay. So now you're going to take your brush and form a little arc, and then pat all the way down. Again, make sure that it's lined up with the center of your eye. I actually don't mind, even though I did the green first, I like the way that it kind of melts in and creates its own color, but you can definitely do your cut crease part first and then go in with your green if you wanted to. So now that we have it looking like this, I like to soften it out as soon as possible, again, so that it doesn't dry. So I'm just taking my brush that had the green on it and lining it up all the way. See? And just pat it straight up and down. You just want it to blend before that harsh edge settles in. So I'm gonna add a little bit more green again, and then go back and take your brush to soften. So really try to blend where you don't see any harsh edges, except for the center, because that's going to fade eventually. So now I'm just patting all the way through. It doesn't matter how big this opening is at the moment. It's just, I'm just going with whatever the eye is going with. So we're just tapping and then start to blend immediately. Your makeup will not look diffused if you have this really harsh line. So take your brush, soften, and sort of pull and stretch your eye primer. If you do get these two weird marks, just add more powder, which is your green, and the powder will help to disappear, make that line disappear majority of the time. The center eyelid color is so intense that it's actually going to cover the bright center area. So don't worry about that. So now that we've got that going on, this is where we go back to our transition color. So it looks like I have two little tornadoes going down my eye, and if you see that on your eye, that means you're off to a great start. You just kind of have to go back and forth. Okay, so now we're going back into our neutral palette with an angled brush. So this is a MAC 263 angled brush. You want something that's very sharp. And rather than going in with my transition shade, I'm going in with something that's a little bit deeper and richer. So taking my angled brush, this is what's going to help define this cut crease part. So here's what you want to do. Switch your placement and go from upside down and just carve out the top of that cut. This is going to give you that extra definition and that sort of hollowed out crease. So you can already see a difference. And the reason why I start from upside down in the beginning is so that I can get the sharpest line possible. And once I have a good amount, I take, again, this is not a 5-brush challenge. This is use every brush that you possibly can to get the job done. And now I'm just taking my smudging brush. This is a MAC 219 and just softening the tip of it. This is a really nice dense brush, so it will allow you to be precise with your blending without disturbing the cut of your eye. You can already see it's coming together already. All right, so here we are so far. And now I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. So now that we have our eyes even more defined, I'm going to go in with the most exciting product, which is the New York Makeup Academy Eyeshadow Pigment. So this is a neon pigment. It's amazing. A little bit goes a very long way. They're insane. This is one of my favorites. There's so many favorites. But you guys can get them at nymuacosmetics.com if you are interested. The color range is amazing. There's neon, there's like these multifaceted, multi-dimensional pigments that oh my God, they're so metallic and shimmery, it's crazy. So I'm taking my MAC 42 brush. And again, anytime we're going towards an edge, slow down so that way you can be precise. There is some fallout. And once you get that on there, live your life. Just go to town. Oh, this makes me so excited. So starting here. Okay, so it's insanely neon. So again, I'm going back and forth. I'm no expert at this technique. This is not something that I do all the time. This is just the way that I get there. So if you find a better way, woohoo. So I'm going back in with the green, but at this time I'm going with a little bit of a brighter green. Taking this lime green that's right here with my 239 brush again. And just helping to fade out those edges. As you can see, trying to get the best transition possible. So you can see our dark to medium to light. So now what I like to do is now take a black to be the tiniest points on the eye. So taking my black with a small tiny brush, black matte eyeshadow, and just sink that right into the corner of the eye. This creates a stopping point of the cylinder that we're shaping right here in this inner corner, and then in the outer corner as well. And all of these shades, the colorful shades, are in the Norvina Volume 2. The neutral shades are in the Sunset palette from Natasha Denona. And then the neon is from the New York Makeup Academy. Okay, so now that we've got that going on, I can see that I need more definition on the top, but I won't worry about that at the moment. So now I will take my navy blue and start the process right underneath my eye and just build, build, build. So I'm just framing inner and outer corner, keeping the center of the eye open and really patting on that color. Now I'm adding the green, and now I'm adding black in the outer corner as well. So last is to apply the pigment in the center of the eyelid. Okay, so now let's take our pigment. Watch out for the fallout, everybody. Fallout is going to happen with pigment. It's just inevitable, so just take it slow, take it lightly. Don't get upset, don't worry about it. You can put the eye primer underneath it, but I just find that it has an easier blend when you don't on the bottom. The last thing that I like to do, it's this really small detail, but it just makes it have a backdrop of beauty because this is such an intense color scheme. But take your transition color again with your 239 and sweep it underneath so that it becomes part of a natural contour of the eye. It also gives blue, which is an unnatural shade, something to blend into, so you could see the difference is not quite as intense. Even though we do want intensity, we just want like a beauty intensity. So really make that nice and rich underneath. Okay, so now that we have that, the last thing that I like to do is take my blending brush with the blue, and I like to kind of let this travel out a bit and slightly outward. I think it just tends to look a little more lifted. So just give a couple flicks outward. So remember to keep your blending soft and like a feather, like when you're blending these edges, because if you press too hard, you're going to get like that definite line, and you want so much control of your pigment. So take it really slow. So now we are going to define with some eyeliner. So now I'm starting with the Wet n Wild black eyeliner and just lining that into my waterline. So now I have the black wrapped around the bottom, and now take your liquid. This is the NYX Vivid Matte Liquid Eyeliner. Love this one. And you do kind of want to do a thicker line on your eyelid because your eyelid has expanded. So if you have too much of a thinner line, it's not going to give you that impact. So take your eyeliner, I'm just tracing mine. Sometimes these black eyeliners aren't black enough for a picture. So if you take your darkest black eyeshadow, this is from the same palette, I love this palette, E5, which is right here. E5, bottom right corner, coat the sides of your brush, and then you are going to pat right over that black. So the reason why I love to do this is because you get a really jet black line and it keeps the light reflection evenly balanced. Like look at how much darker it is compared to that side because light is being reflected off. So you can see I go back in, relayer. Okay, so now we've got that going on. Taking a little bit of the black to my lash line just to lightly tap, get that definition. So I've already curled my eyelashes. I'm taking the IT Cosmetics Superhero Mascara. It gets you really, really thick lashes pretty quickly. Okay, so now that we've got this, I'm going to throw on some lashes really quick and I'll finish the lip and then we're good to go. Last but not least is a lip combination to go with this. So you really want to neutralize your lip as much as possible, but you still want to define your lip. So I'm using MAC Oak Lip Pencil, which is my favorite, and just lightly sketching. Last is the MAC Fleshpot lipstick. It's a nude matte, or what is it? I think it's a satin. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this halo eye tutorial. I really enjoyed making it for you. This comes from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much to everybody who DM'd me that they wanted a video for this, as well as commented, shared, even viewed it. I do really appreciate it. And I cannot wait to see what you guys create. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me a little comment and let me know what you want to see next.